Canva's background remover tool. Where do you find it? How do you use it? What are some of the strengths and limitations of this tool? Let's cover all of that in this video. As a reminder, this video is part of a tutorial series on the latest AI tools in Canva. So if you want to check out some of those other videos and learn all about the different AI tools in Canva, just check the description below this video and you'll find links to all the different videos that are part of this series. As a second reminder, I do have a couple of free giveaways that are complements to this learning series. So I have my Canva AI tool guide, which is just a quick visual reference to really go over each tool, where to find it, how to use it, tips for using the tool. So just an easy reference you can have handy whenever you're working with these tools. And then a second free giveaway is my visual style guide, which is really going to help you start to learn the language you can use when prompting and creating AI images to really get a variety of great results. So it's going to give you over 100 keywords, descriptions to go along with those, and it's going to really help you start to build that sort of visual language and that library of terms you need to get great results. So I'm going to put a link in the first pinned comment below and also in the description below this video. Sign up for my email and you can get those free guides. In this lesson and the coming lessons, we're going to be talking about the Magic Studio tools in Canva, which can be found under the edit menu when you have a photo selected. So for example, if I have this photo on the screen selected here, and we go under the edit menu, we're going to see this Magic Studio. Now we're going to talk about all these tools coming up, but in this video, we're going to start by talking about the background remover. Now, the first thing I'll mention about these tools, you're going to notice they all have this crown icon here, which indicates that yes, these Magic Studio tools are Pro Canva features. So you are going to need to have the Pro Canva account to be able to access these features. Now, the background remover does exactly what you might expect it to do. So with a photo selected, when you click on the background remover, it is then going to look at the photo, use that AI technology, attempt to determine what the subject is, and then it's going to try to remove the background from the subject. So if I go ahead and click on this now, you'll see it flash. It's going to do its thinking, and it's going to get rid of the background, and you are left with just the subject here. So now I can move this subject around. I can place it on a new background. I can come in here, change the background color. Maybe I just want it to be on a blue background. So it's that easy. One click removes the background. It can be very useful. Now, of course, there are some things to keep in mind when you're using this tool because it is not a perfect tool. You have to pay attention to the lighting on your subject. You can't take something in a scene that's lit one way and then stick it into a scene with totally different lighting and expect it to look perfectly. It's also not always going to do a perfect job removing the background. So let's run through some examples just to see the sort of thing I'm talking about. So let's jump over now and take a look at this photo. And if we look closer at this photo, I'll zoom in so we can see even better. And if we look at this photo right here, we'll notice that the subject's hair, where you have these bright highlights all around the hair, and you also have this very frizzy flyaway hair with highlights on a light background. So you can imagine where this is much more complicated, and so it's probably not going to do as good of a job if we try the background remover on a photo like this. But let's go ahead and run it and see what kind of results we get. So we're going to click background remover. There we go. It gets rid of the background, but if we look at it closely, we can see that it's done a good job down here, but if we really look up here where the highlights of the hair are, it just doesn't look quite right, because not only is it picking up some of those strands of hair, it's picking up some of that background color as well. Now, it may not be super noticeable if you use it on a background of similar color, but if we copy this, I'm going to hit Control C to copy it. We come back to this blue background and we paste it. It's going to be even more pronounced. Now we can see that it really has not done a great job removing the background of this photo. So this is just something to keep in mind as you use this tool. It's going to do a really good job on some subjects where the subject clearly stands out and is in contrast to the background. But when this subject has areas that start to blend with a more complicated background, then you are not going to always get perfect results with this background remover. So just temper your expectations, and you have to sort of understand that going in, that this is a great tool. It does a really good job on a number of photos, but it is not perfect. Let's look at another example to talk about other things you need to keep in mind. So if we jump to this photo here, not many flyaway hairs, clear contrast between the subject and the background. So there's a good chance that the background remover is going to work fairly well. So if I go ahead and run it here, yes, it does a good job of cutting out the subject. But if you are going to composite this subject into another scene, we still need to take in mind sort of the lighting conditions of that original scene, the color of this photo here. So if I were to copy it, for example, Control C, and let's just try pasting it in a couple different scenes. So if I paste it into here and we look at this, okay, this looks okay, but we don't have a perfect match in color tones. I think this background is a little bit more vivid. This here is a little bit more of a muted color palette. So you do have to keep that sort of thing in mind if you're pasting into new photos. So if I pasted this into this one here, maybe this is a slightly better match here because both of these are muted color tones, but maybe this one here is still a little bit warmer than the photo we're pasting it into. So when you're making a composite like this, you may have to come in here and you may have to make some adjustment tweaks. So if I go under my adjustment menu here, maybe I'll take the temperature of the photo I paste in and just cool it down a little bit. So in other words, I could warm it up, I could cool it down. If I cool it down a little bit, I think it matches a little bit better with the background. Maybe there's a slight green tint, so you could play around with your tinting too. So just keep in mind, you may have to make adjustments if you're trying to paste one photo into a new scene. Also keep in mind that some photos are just going to be too different. They're not going to work together. So this is a great tool, but it's not a perfect tool. You still have to be thinking as you do something, making sure you're using it in ways that make sense. Now there are a couple other features about this tool to talk about, so let's cover that real quick. So let me go ahead and close this and jump over to this photo here. So again, we could run the background remover on a photo like this. Now, you're not sure until you run it sometimes what it's going to get included as the subject, because we have a lot of things in the foreground here, including the woman here. So let's run it to see what kind of results we're going to get. So again, click that background remover, and it's removed the background, but it's left some foreground elements that maybe you didn't want. So another feature of this tool is once you run the tool, you'll know that it's been run on a photo because you're going to see background remover highlighted up here. So if it's highlighted up here, that means there are some background remover changes apply to the current photo, and we can still enter the dialog by clicking on background remover again. And when we do, you see that additionally in here you sort of have an erase tool and a restore tool. Now let me tell you, I do not think these options are perfect in here. You have the ability to change your brush size, but you can't do it on the fly with a keyboard shortcut. A lot of other programs will let you use bracket keys to change brush size on the fly. I don't like having to come over here every time to adjust it, but you do have to come over here and adjust it. Then you can see it adjust in your screen. So if I wanted to erase even more, I could come in here and start erasing now. Now there's no way to step backwards through your commands, but if you use Control-Z on your keyboard, that is the keyboard shortcut for undoing something. So if you make a stroke in here that you don't like, you can hit Control-Z to sort of undo your last paint stroke. Now, if I wanted to come in and restore something as well, of course, if I had deleted this here and I switched back to restore, then I could come in here and restore something. We see I've brought some of the background back as well. Now again, that Control-Z is helpful because if I hit Control-Z twice now, I can step back through my paint strokes, and so I get back to this version here. Now I'm not currently seeing the whole photo, so sometimes you'll have to come down here and use this zoom slider to sort of pan out so you can see the whole image, but it's not great at letting you zoom in and pan around. So I think there could be some improvements in the interface from that regard as well. But if I did want to get rid of this edge here, this little part of the image, that would be pretty easy because it's isolated over here. But then once you start to get in and sort of have to erase things that are really touching other things, and you have to do sort of precise editing, that's where if you had something like a tablet, it would be a little easier. But just with a mouse on your computer, you are going to have to take care and come in here and carefully make strokes. And again, this is where this tool is far from perfect. If you're working in something like Photoshop or Illustrator and you have that pen tool, you just have much more control. You also have the ability to have a soft edge. You can only have a hard edge in here on your brush, so you can't really make a soft edge when you erase something. So again, a lot of improvements could be made for this with this tool here. I tend to not use this erase and restore option very much just because I think it lacks flexibility. I don't think it's great, but you can try it out if you want. And certainly for just popping a subject out from the background, this can be an effective tool. So yes, the background remover, when you have a simple subject that you want to just remove from the background and put in another image, on another background, yes, it works from that. However, in the next lesson, I'm going to go over another tool which does the same thing essentially, only with even more options. So you may find that you actually don't use this background remover that often. So we'll go over that in the next lesson, and I'll see you there soon.